Hi everybody, Dana Booth here, National Education Manager for AmeriFirst Financial and Educate to Earn. And welcome to Planning for Agent Success. We're going to go through this class, spend a couple of hours, and I'm going to teach this class with this Camtasia video just like I would teach it to a class. Meaning I'm going to use some of the same stories and ideas to help you teach this class as well as you can. A couple of things to keep in mind. I don't have an audience, there won't be any discussion, and a lot of my classes I plan for time for discussion. So if we finish in under 2 hours, that's probably the reason why. The other thing I want you to understand is that because if you just go through the PowerPoint slides and read them and follow the agenda and don't bring any of your own material to the class, you're likely to finish early. So I'm going to be using suggestions during this class to show you how to actually teach the class and bring your own things to the class so that you can actually make it your own and customize it to meet your needs. So let's get started. Now, one of the things that I do is I always start with a preliminary introduction to the class. So before I go to this slide, I'm going to actually go back a little bit here. See if I can get my PowerPoint to work here. There we go. And I'll just go ahead and say a couple of things. Remember that you have the traditional learner and people that are really kind of the old school way of learning. So you want to always let them know that, hey, by the way, a couple of ground rules. I just want to let you know that I'm going to teach this class and I'm not necessarily going to really speed through the slides. So if I talk for a half an hour right now and don't go to slide 2, just rest assured I've timed this class out and I'm going to finish on time. You will not be late. Sometimes people get a little nervous if you're not kind of spinning through the slides at a decent clip. So the first thing that I do is I introduce people to the class and say, look, there's a couple of things that we want to do here. 3 things actually. Number 1, we want to get you a certificate for CE hours. In Arizona, you need 24 hours every 2 years. In California, 45 hours every 4 years. And the number 1 thing we want to do is get you that credit. But while we do it, it's very important that we do a class for you that's engaging, interesting, humorous, and exciting. And the most important thing, and the third thing we want to do, is we want to give you information that makes you better at what you do. Being a real estate agent, when you pass that test to get your license, there really is no answer to be successful or how to be successful. In other words, you've memorized a whole bunch of stuff and you've passed the test, but do you have the knowledge to be successful as a real estate agent and as a professional? So if we were to redesign the test, how would we do it? What would the first question be? Well, in my mind, the first question would be, what's my number 1 goal as a real estate agent? A, to expose myself to as many people as possible, as relevant, savvy, innovative, and professional as possible. B, to lock myself in my bedroom and not answer my phone, and on and on and on. In other words, when you pass the test, they don't tell you that it's all about exposure. If you think about it, and I'm really on this idea right now, when somebody recognizes that you're a realtor, let's say that you have your name badge on, and you're in Starbucks in line, and they read the name badge, and I would suggest that if you have a name badge, it's very clear and kind of a big print what your name is and what you do, again, your company or your brand. And when people recognize that, they say always the same thing. How's the fill in the blank? And you'll do this for a class, and they'll always say, how's the market? Well, what I want people to understand is that that is what you want. Question number 2 on our newly designed real estate exam is, when people ask you, how's the market, how do you respond? How I'd respond is, the market, well, it's spectacular actually. Whether you're buying or selling a house, whether you're the seller or the buyer, it's a great time to be transacting. It's a great time to be transacting. And it's almost as if the bus is leaving the station and nobody's getting on it. People just aren't aware of it. and then I would just stop. Because I think what people are actually doing when they're asking you how's the market, they're saying subconsciously, wonder if this person can tell me anything esoteric, anything spectacular. Or are they like the rest of the realtors? Because I always think, as John Q. Public, that realtors are all the same. And I wonder if this person can differentiate themselves. And I believe that's what's happening. And I believe that's what you want to create that exposure, to have random conversations with total strangers, to maximize your exposure, and a name badge is a great way to do that. So what we're here today is to bridge that gap. The gap between passing the test and closing your first transaction. Now, many of you have done that, but most people don't. We don't believe agents are lazy. We believe that they aren't taught how to choreograph their day minute to minute for success. In other words, have you ever gone to your office, sat down at your desk on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock, and then thought, now what? The other thing that I'm really on to now is that weren't we successful in high school with classroom bells? In other words, the bell rang, we went to class. Class ended, the bell rang, and we left. So my question is this: how come we're not so good with classroom bells when we get older? Is it possible that we don't know how to choreograph our day, and we don't time block our day, therefore we don't even have classroom bells? Is it possible that when it's time and the bell goes off for me to, let's just say cold call? I don't suggest that, by the way. Let's change that. Let's say, I'm going to blog 2 hours at 10 o'clock today. And 10 o'clock comes, and you say, you know what? I don't have to pay attention to that classroom bell because I don't have detention like I did in high school. In other words, our penalty for not following our classroom bells is a happy hour, not detention. We can do whatever we want, and that's question number 3 on our newly designed real estate exam. Question number 3 is, I don't know if you understand this, but you are an island when you take on this job. When you take on the task of being an independent real estate agent, you now are in charge of everything from the time you wake up until the time you go to sleep. And nobody is going to monitor you or hold you accountable. And that's difficult. Question 4 on our newly designed test might be, how do I do this? A, there is no answer. There's many ways you can do it, which is the correct answer. B, follow the old pros and copy what they do, not what I would suggest. C, listen to everybody who talks to you and try and follow their lead, and on and on. Again, when a new agent walks in an office and asks somebody, hey, how do I do this? What's my best practice every day? And the new agent's, or the old agent is likely to say to the new agent, oh, well, you just have to do open houses, and you have to do expireds, and you have to do FSBOs, and you have to do cold calling, and they list about 25 different things you have to do. What we believe is that we want you to make a paradigm shift today, and we want you to simplify your business, plan your time, listen to your classroom bells, and watch the results. According to National Association of Realtors, it's estimated that 75% of all licensees will never close a single transaction in their career. That's 75% will never close one transaction. An estimated 46% are never active. But, again, I might say to the class, listen, if you've closed one transaction, congratulations, you're in the top 25% all time. Hall of Fame. Pat yourself on the back. And what that means is that the chasm between getting your license and closing your first transaction is vast. That proves it. 75% of the people who get their license never close one transaction because it's hard to pass the test and be ready to close that transaction or know exactly what you want to do. Now here's another idea for you when you're teaching this class, folks. The other day I Googled business planning, and I read some of the things that I got for business planning as a result. One of them was planning an SBA.com, how to apply for an SBA loan. Not going to help us. Here's another one from an accountant, and they're saying, we will help you with your financial planning. That's not it either. There was a Wikipedia definition of business planning, and it was interesting because it said, business planning is trying to figure out what to do with the belief that if you do those things, you'll have success. How wrong some people are sometimes. Another one said, for $385, we'll design your business plan and you'll be successful. And here's the problem with real estate sales. There's so many different ways to make this work. And what you have to do is you've got to figure out what your why is, what your reason for being in the business is, what your passion is, what makes you inspired to get up and go to work. And once you do that, everything becomes about that. Then the rest is easy. Many licensees are never active and never intend to utilize their real estate license. But what about the agents whose livelihood depends on being successful? Nothing so conclusively proves a man's ability or a woman's to lead others as what he or she does from day to day to lead themselves. That's Tom Watson, not the golfer, the founder of IBM. And I like Tom Watson because Tom Watson built IBM way back, starting in the 70s, I think it was. And what he did is he said, I see this company as an end result, and I'm going to work my way back to the very beginning and figure this company out. And that takes incredible discipline, incredible genius, and incredible planning. So let's go a little textbook here. 5 principles of success. This sounds a little bit corny, but number 1 is to have a plan. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows we've got to have a plan. The problem is, and this is what I'll say to the agents in the class, have you ever met one person who has a plan, and the plan is perfect, and they follow it day to day, and they're hugely successful? And I'll just wait for crickets, because someone will say, yeah, my mentor has a plan, and, tell me what the plan is. I mean, is it a 3-point plan, 8-point plan? And what I'll say is, let me ask you a question, folks. Which realtor is relevant in Phoenix, the Valley of the Sun here, on television? And everyone will say Russell Shaw. And I'll say, correct. Russell Shaw has cornered the media market as far as realtors go. There isn't a competitor for Russell. But Russell's plan is clear. If you want to see what Russell's plan is, it's I list and sell properties at $500,000 and less. In other words, he won't take a listing at $501,000. And I promise to sell your house in 30 days. And he says that. He says, I'll sell your home in 30 days, and mind you, you can fire me if you don't like me. I'm applying for a job. So Russell has a real simple plan. He wants to list and sell homes $500,000 or less. He acts like the average middle America Joe. Real simple. Just, I'm going to sell your house in 30 days. If you don't believe me, don't call me. And if you don't like me, you can fire me. There's no pressure. I'll ask the class, and sometimes Russell will be in the class, and I'll say, is Russell Shaw the best looking man? Does he compete with George Clooney and Brad Pitt for best looking man, sexiest man in America? Or is he just a regular guy? And then I'll look at the class and say, then how come we're not all doing this? The last time I checked production, Russell did $56 million in the last 12 months. Now that rotates and fluctuates each month because you lose a month, you gain another month, and the numbers change. But $56 million at a 50% split is $2.5 million in commission. And I promise you, Russell is not on a 50% split. So have a plan. And have a simple plan. You can only handle simple things. How many of you feel like your hard drive is almost full, or it feels that way? We can only, in this complicated world with all the stuff coming at us, handle simple things. The second thing in the 5 principles of success that's the most important thing of all is to take action. Have you ever met someone who has a 16-page plan and is never taking action? Or I'll ask the realtors, have you ever met that person in the office who's preparing to prepare to prepare to prepare? And I'll tell them the story about my friend Cherie, who had been taking classes from me for some time. And I said, Cherie, it's just so nice to have you at classes. You're a very good participator, and you really add a lot to the class. You must be a very successful realtor. And she says, I've been in the business 2 years, and I've never closed a single transaction. I said, excuse me? She said, yeah, I've helped a lot of people close their transactions, but I myself have never closed one transaction myself. Wow. What Cherie doesn't know is that she's in the majority. 75% never close a transaction. And so, it's important to make sure that we take action. Why is Cherie just helping other people and building her knowledge, taking every class known to man to be successful? I believe that the answer is fear. And I'll tell the class that I believe fear is doing one of 2 things to you. Question number 5 on our newly designed real estate exam, licensing exam. Fear is doing what at all times? A, it's either crushing you or propelling you forward. B, fear is not real. C, pay no attention. D, there is no such thing as fear. Fear is either crushing you or propelling you forward at all times. And we have to manage fear. Fear is what keeps me from crossing Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard with my eyes closed. I want to pay attention, I want to live, and I'm fearful of doing that. So fear is a built-in protection device for us, and we have to manage fear to be successful. Number 3 is to measure and track your results. Is my plan working? And the action I'm taking, is it the right action? Or do I need to change my plan? And do I need to change my actions? We call these strategies and tactics. Do I have to change my strategy? Or do I have to change my tactics? Or both? So measure and track your results. So how often would you measure and track your results? Later in the class, we'll suggest every 30 days. I'll ask the class, though. Again, remember, when you're teaching a class, you want to come out with high energy. You want to connect one-on-one. That means asking questions of the people. What that'll do is that will help you understand what their needs are, what they expect from the class. And then you can just deliver it. So number 4 is be open to change. Be more flexible than your environment. And number 5, and this is not something that is really given a Medal of Honor for in our culture. It's not really a badge of courage to be someone who asks for help. But man, if you're trying to figure this real estate business out by yourself, good luck. And I would also tell you, when you ask for help, be careful who you ask. Make sure that if somebody gives you a complicated answer, that you take that advice with a grain of salt. So here's what we're going to cover today in our class. Number 1 is creating your why. We're going to talk about why people get burned out in the business or discouraged. Have you ever had a difficult week or a difficult couple of days and you just feel like, gosh, is there anything else I could be doing? I'm really tired of doing real estate. And we'll teach you how to find your why and thereby create your passion. Why do you get up in the morning, and why should anybody care? We're going to talk about business planning, of course. Goals Gone Wild, the Harvard Business Working Paper, Harvard Business School Working Paper, I should say, that says that goals are overrated. We're going to talk about the real nuts and bolts, the niches, what to focus on. And if you find your why, it's easy to find what buckets of business fit your niches. In other words, if you are an analyzing person, an engineering type, unemotional, then maybe one of your niches should be something that has nothing to do with people. You might want to do blogging and search engine